The moment he opened his eyes, Daniel felt something warm and soft resting on his chest. At first, he thought it was his little daughter Lily, who sometimes sneaked into his bed after a nightmare. But the second he turned his head, he froze. It wasn't his daughter. It was a woman. A woman wrapped in his blanket, her head buried against him, her arm draped across his ribs like she had spent the entire night clinging to him for safety. And then the moment that would hook every viewer happened. She woke up with her eyes shot open wide, terrified, and she jolted upright, the blanket falling just enough to reveal why her face instantly burned red. She pulled it tightly around herself, gasping. Why am I in your arms? Who are you? But Daniel was just as stunned. I don't know what happened. I swear I didn't. That was the moment, right there, where viewers lean closer to their screens. The moment that forces them to stay, like, and subscribe. Because the story of how a hard-working single dad ended up with a powerful CEO waking up naked in his arms was not at all what anyone would expect. And now, the story begins. Daniel Reyes was a single dad working double shifts as a mechanic. Ever since his wife passed away 3 years ago, he'd been doing everything he could to raise 7-year-old Lily with love, patience, and stability. Life wasn't easy. Between bills, his job, and Lily's school events, Daniel rarely had a moment for himself. But he didn't complain. Lily was his whole world. On the other side of the city lived Olivia Hart, the 32-year-old CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country. People saw her as fierce, brilliant, and intimidating. Headlines called her the Iron CEO, but what no one knew was that behind that reputation was a woman who worked herself until she broke. A woman who cried alone in her penthouse, drowning under pressure. A woman who secretly wished for someone to tell her it was okay to stop pretending she was fine. 2 different worlds. 2 different lives. But fate doesn't look at status, it looks at hearts ready to collide. It happened on a rainy Thursday night. Daniel was driving home from his late shift, exhausted but trying to stay awake to heat dinner for Lily. The storm was pouring hard, the road slick and dangerous. That's when he saw it. A black luxury car crashed against a street pole, smoke rising from the hood. Without thinking, he pulled over, grabbed his flashlight, and ran toward the wreck. Inside was a woman, unconscious, breathing but trembling. Her head was bleeding lightly, her lips pale. Daniel forced the door open and carried her into his truck. He had no idea who she was. He only knew someone needed help, but the hospital was flooded with emergency cases due to the storm. They told him there'd be a long wait, and she seemed stable. So the nurse, overwhelmed with chaos, told him to take her home, keep her warm, and return in the morning unless her condition worsened. So he did. He took her to his tiny house. Laid her on his bed. Covered her with a blanket, but what he didn't know was that Olivia, in her half-conscious state, kept grabbing onto him, clinging to the warmth and safety she hadn't felt in years. And when he sat beside her to check on her fever, she pulled him closer and wouldn't let go. So he stayed sitting against the headboard, letting her lean against him so she wouldn't fall or choke. He fell asleep like that, which brings us back to the morning she woke up wrapped in his arms, terrified and confused. After her panic settled, Daniel explained the entire situation. And slowly, Olivia realized he was telling the truth. No ulterior motives. No hidden intentions. Just kindness. Genuine kindness, the kind she hadn't experienced in so long she had forgotten what it felt like. She looked around the humble room, the peeling paint, the old fan, the cracked dresser. She wasn't used to anything like this. But somehow, the simplicity felt comforting. When Lily peeked inside with sleepy eyes and whispered, "Daddy, who is she?" the tension broke a little. Olivia softened at the sight of the little girl. Daniel explained everything again, and Lily just nodded like it was the most normal thing in the world. That morning changed everything. Olivia expected to leave and never see him again. But fate had other plans. After Daniel dropped her off at her office, she found herself thinking about him, the honest mechanic who risked everything to help her. For the first time in years, someone had saved her, not for gain, not for publicity, but simply because they cared. The next day, she returned to his shop. Daniel was shocked to see her, a billionaire CEO, standing in his dusty workshop in a sleek suit. She thanked him again and offered him money, a reward. He refused. "I didn't help you for money," he said quietly. "You looked like you needed someone." His words hit her harder than she expected. Over the next weeks, their unlikely friendship began. Olivia started visiting the shop under the guise of checking on her car, but Daniel quickly noticed she kept showing up even when there was nothing to fix. Lily adored her. She would show Olivia her drawings, tell her silly jokes, and even braid her hair, and she began to feel something she hadn't felt in years. At home point one evening, Olivia confessed she didn't know how to slow down. She didn't know how to rest. She didn't know how to live without fear of losing everything she'd worked for. Daniel simply told her, "You don't have to be strong all the time." Not here. Those words broke her. Being loved for her softness rather than her success felt like a miracle, but every story has its challenge, the media found out. Photos of Olivia visiting a mechanic's shop spread online. Rumors exploded, calling Daniel unworthy, calling Olivia irresponsible, calling it a scandal. Her board threatened her. Investors panicked, and Olivia, despite her feelings, pulled away. She disappeared for 2 weeks. Daniel didn't chase her. He didn't want to be another burden in her already heavy world, but Lily missed her too much. She wrote Olivia a letter, "You can come home when you're sad." Olivia received that letter late at night. She cried holding it. For the first time, she realized she wasn't afraid of losing her company, she was afraid of losing the people who made her feel human. So she made her choice. She showed up at Daniel's house in the rain, the same stormy feeling as the night they met. Daniel opened the door, shocked to see her soaked and shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I let fear control me. But you and Lily, you're the only place that ever felt safe." Daniel didn't hesitate. He wrapped his arms around her, and this time, she held in just as tightly. Their relationship wasn't a fairy tale. It was built on broken pieces, fear, trust, and healing. But they rebuilt each other slowly, like two souls learning how to breathe again. Months later, Olivia stepped down from running her company day to day. She stayed CEO but created balance, allowing herself a life beyond work. Daniel continued being the father he always was, steady, loyal, loving, and Lily? She finally had a woman who braided her hair back, but the moment that ties this whole story together, the moment viewers remember forever, was a quiet morning when Daniel woke up with Olivia sleeping in his arms again. But this time, she wasn't scared. She wasn't confused. She whispered, "I'm exactly where I want to be." The story ends there, not with wealth, not with power, but with something stronger, a reminder that sometimes the person you think is out of your league is the one who needs you the most. A reminder that kindness can change a life. A reminder that love finds us in the most unexpected places. And if you want more stories like this, touching, emotional, and unforgettable, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more heartwarming stories to life, because somewhere out there, someone is waiting to hear the story that changes their day, or maybe even their life.